Welcome back to Turbulent Beauty. Today we have a deeply personal and inspiring episode to share with you. Our guest today is a remarkable individual who has navigated the challenging journey of self discovery, self acceptance, and the courage to live life authentically. Trigger warning. Today's topic mentions sexual violence. If you are a survivor, please be sure to take care of yourself when listening to this episode. Hey, Cal. I'm so happy to have you here. There are so many things that we can talk about, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where today's episode is going to take us. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah, so my name's Kel. I am a female to male transgender man. I am 31 years old and I've been on hormones for just over 11 years and I'm a student.
Prior to us recording today, you and I had a conversation of what your life was like before you transitioned, and you mentioned the stealth identity. And that was a new term for me when you first told me about it. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing about that time period of your life.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time when I first started taking hormones. I was just about to turn 20 and I was pretty new to the transgender community myself. I didn't even know that transgender was a thing until I moved to San Francisco at 18. About 3 months after I started taking hormones, I moved to Washington and I was seeing that as an opportunity to start fresh, especially because I've been having issues at home with people knowing me before I started taking hormones and knowing me previously as a girl. I was just really excited to have people meet me without any of that context. So when I moved here to Washington, I started working at a restaurant and I wasn't familiar with the male to male culture. And so I was like very new to what it was like to interact with men being seen as a man. And so that was something that I just had no idea what to expect. So there were certain things that I would encounter that I would think would be male culture, but it wasn't, like being sexually harassed at a restaurant. There was a waitress who saw that I was wearing a binder because I would bind, and then I would also wear a packer to help with my own dysphoria and to feed into that stealthness. I was paranoid about the situation, so I wanted to have as many tools as I possibly could just to make me much more passing. There was a woman that worked there and she saw through my shirt that I was wearing a binder, and I don't know how she saw that. She must have been looking very closely, so she thought that it would be a great idea to tell other people in the restaurant that I was a trans man, not telling me or asking me about it. Then one of the workers, who was my friend, quote unquote, came over to me with a pair of tongs and grabbed me down there to see if I had a dick. I was very shocked. Like when he came over to me, I felt like a deer in headlights type of situation. And I was like, this is fine because this must be male culture, right? This is how men interact with each other, especially in a restaurant. I've heard that kitchen workers can be gnarly to each other. And that was just what I assumed was the new normal for me, which I hated, but I was like, okay, this is just what it is. And then I would proceed to get sexually harassed there and be called a twink, or I've had a worker there grab me by the shirt of my collar and describe to me how they would rape me if we were in jail. And there again, I was just like, this is just normal masculine culture in my very little experience. That was a very shitty experience with that. And then I was having a hard time knowing how to interact with people just on a normal social scale, even with other women or just like anybody in general, honestly, because I was having this experience of, oh, I'm the scary white guy now. I am now part of that problem as being perceived as a cis white male in society. And so that was a struggle for me to come to terms with as well, and also interact with people on that level. I was just very aware of what I was saying. And that's just like also just as a trans man in general. This doesn't have to do with me being stealth, but it goes into stealth because 75% of the time I'll tell people that I'm trans and it alleviates some of that scariness about being a man, but not all of it, obviously. But with that going into being stealth, it made it hard. It was just like shifting how I was interacting with the world because the world was also shifting how it was interacting with me. And I didn't really anticipate that going into taking hormones at first. And it took a long time to get accustomed to that. And so I'm like a very open person, and conversations didn't flow very naturally for me if I would talk about myself or talk about my past, even though it's not lying because I have the right to withhold my own information, especially for my own safety or for my own comfort. But to me, it didn't feel great. And I also felt like I had to keep up with all of these cover ups so people wouldn't know who I was before I started taking hormones. So it just gave me more anxiety than I wanted, when I was trying to just not have as much anxiety because I was like, cool, I'm starting
Yeah.
off fresh and I get to be who I am and be seen as who I am and yada yada. But it just, I don't know, it didn't work well for me. I was like a long stream of things. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I appreciate you sharing that part. How long were you in that job for? And did you ever push back at those assholes that were being super inappropriate and putting you in a more dangerous position for yourself?
I think I was there for 9 months. So I wasn't there for super long, but no, I did not push back. I was terrified. And that's very out of character for me too, because I am a very pushback type of person. But I felt I was in such unknown territory. And I also was like, in a really kind of sick way, they see me as a man, and I was just happy to be seen as a man, regardless of how that was being treated. I was like, oh, cool, sure, they're talking about doing all these horrible things to me, and they're grabbing me in very inappropriate places, but I'm being perceived as a man, and I'm quote unquote passing in terms of what society expects of me, and therefore I'm in it. I did it. I'm finally doing the darn thing. Yeah.
So, how long did it take you to be more comfortable in your skin when you first started transitioning and realizing that certain behaviors were not okay from other people? When was there a significant event that you were like, this is bullshit and I'm not going to be that kind of a man?
I can't really say the time frame of it. It was all very just gradual and then slowly happened. I would say it probably took a couple of years for me to see that I didn't want to be stealth anymore. And I was really tired of wearing binders and packers, especially in the summertime. It felt so uncomfortable and it was really sweaty and gross down there with a packer. And I was just like, I'm a person of comfort and this is not comfortable for me. So I don't want it. And I was fortunate enough to be small chested anyway, to where I could get away without wearing a binder. So I took that to my advantage. I think it was just like me making friends in a place where I had no community. And through that, finding comfort in people that were actually my friends and treated me as a human being. And then me feeling comfortable enough to open up to them about certain things about myself, like being trans, and them creating a safe space for me allowed me to move forward and step away from that toxic masculine culture and then interacting with other men that were not of that toxic masculine culture and showing me that there are so many ways to interact with each other because holy cow, we're not in a box. I think that when I started working at Value Village after that place, and I worked with a lot of people that were my age, which I think was really helpful because these people that I worked with at the kitchen were older than me. They were probably like 10, 15 years older than me. But yeah, when I worked at Value Village, I found my community. Working at Value Village sucked, but my coworkers were awesome, and I definitely created a family through those people who I'm still in contact with.
Community is so important for all of us. I couldn't imagine my life today without having the strong community that I have. So, you recently had surgery.
I did.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about the surgery that you had?
Yeah, so I had the keyhole incision, which is where they go right in through the areola and they, for lack of better words, scrape out the breast tissue. And then she also originally tried to do liposuction, but I guess because of me being on hormones for so long, or I don't know, the tissue was too hard to be lipoed out. So that's where the keyhole incision came in, and I'm about just 3 weeks out of post op from that procedure. So I still have a lot of swelling going on. It was interesting for me because, like I was saying before, I was already pretty small chested. So when I came out of the surgery, I didn't have this immediate euphoric feeling that a lot of people have after they have surgery, especially if they are like bigger chested. So I'm still waiting to have that euphoric feeling because I'm still having swelling and I'm not super happy with my results at the moment, which is also causing me some distress a little bit because I was really excited to have this procedure. I've been waiting to have it for 11 years. So I'm in a weird place right now with my surgery results where I'm not really happy and it's causing me more depression than I would like to have in general. So it's where I am at with my surgery. Like I was really excited to walk around and have people tell me to put my shirt on. When I would walk around without a shirt on too in the past, but I would always have this sense of don't look at me kind of feeling. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just in an interesting place right now. And then in 6 weeks from now, I'll know more if I have to have revisions or not.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Cal. Listening to you talk about, and I don't know how happy I am with this intervention. So you mentioned the freedom of being able to take off your shirt and kind of be proud and show that. Does it feel more like a physical display to the world that kind of fulfillment will come from? Or does it feel like my body's been surgically intervened with? I feel uncomfortable. Can you elaborate on what some of that discomfort is?
Yeah, so I think some of the discomfort is from the fact that a lot of people know that I had top surgery. And I guess I'm uncomfortable with people that have seen me before surgery and after surgery where there's not a huge difference, right? I'm afraid of that kind of reaction. Or I'm afraid of also the display of taking my shirt off and having people look at my results and I'm not happy with my results, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like there's more attention on my chest right now than I would like there to be, and it's making me nervous about being shirtless because my results aren't where I want them to be, which makes me that much more uncomfortable. Because I've never really liked attention on my chest ever. And I was excited to have
Okay.
attention on my chest. And I welcomed that, right? Saying, I'm having top surgery and I'm so excited for my new chest. And now I'm like, still don't look at me. It's not where I want it to be. The product is not finished, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's understanding. And as we approach the warmer months, I could definitely understand that excitement to go forward and show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You said you had mentioned a revision. What type of revision would they be doing at this point?
I think what they would do is, if there's any breast tissue that's left in there, they would take that out. But then they also might have to do a nipple graft because they didn't do any resizing or anything with my nipples other than just that incision. So they might end up doing that where they lift the skin and kind of bring it up more towards my pec. Because right now, based on my results, I'm just like, my muscle's here and it's still down here. So is it going to go up towards that area or is it going to stay down here? That's where I'm at right now with my results.
Prior to your surgery, did you have to adjust your hormones or were you able to stay consistent with your hormones?
Throughout the years, I've adjusted my hormones. Do you mean just in terms of the surgery or just in general?
Yeah, just in terms of the surgery.
No. The only time I would adjust my hormones for any type of surgery would be for a hysterectomy because my body wouldn't be producing as much estrogen. So then I wouldn't have to be combating all the time.
Cal, if there's one piece of advice or words of encouragement you could give someone early in their discovery of themselves going on a similar path, what would you say?
I would say find your people. That saved my life for sure. And the beautiful thing about the internet is that there are so many people out there, and also be careful with that, but take advantage of people that are seeking friends within a community or people that are organizing events for a specific community. Put yourself out there and meet those people, and I would find people. I think that's what saved me, kept me out of a very or took me out of a very dark place and kept me on a track towards being myself versus me going down a path of not being myself. I guess that would be my advice because then that just goes back into being stealth. I felt like I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't still. I lived my whole life not being who I was or trying to be who I was with what I was. I don't know if that makes sense. And then going into coming out as trans and trying to be a cis man, I was compensating in a lot of ways where I would try to be more into quote unquote masculine things and just overdoing it and trying to just be more masculine than I actually wanted to be. Because just because you're a dude doesn't mean you have to be like the super macho masculine dude, which I'm sure a lot of people know by now, but a lot of people don't either, which is surprising. We're all learning and growing. But yeah, I just
Right.
had to figure out who I wanted to be and where I fit on that spectrum of masculinity and femininity. Like, I really embrace my femininity and I appreciate my feminine aspects because I feel like it makes me a more welcoming person in a lot of ways and a more nurturing person. And then I appreciate my masculinity too. It's just I just finding that nice in between space of where you are and who you are. And it can also fluctuate from day to day. It doesn't fluctuate for
Mm-hmm.
me, but it
Mm-hmm.
fluctuates for all kinds of people. I feel like after this journey that I've been doing for a long time, I feel like I finally found my sweet spot of where I want to be. And that's not to say that I don't still struggle with interacting with people. I still have a hard time interacting with cis men just in general. It takes me a while to warm up to them. Yeah.
Oh, I loved how you put that. We hit on it on our last episode. It's one thing to come into yourself, but that integration with others is just huge, and that's what brings it all together. And I like how you went to saying that you had to try harder to fit into a box once you started finding people who truly accepted you. You weren't trying to fit a certain role or traits. You were just able to be you with a community of people that accepted you. And I think that is absolutely beautiful. And I'm very thankful that you found those people. And I applaud your journey. It's so awesome. And I feel like I could open up right now and say, yeah, no, I know how that feels. I know how that feels to be like one person, but be acting a completely different way. It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of love for your efforts and your journey. And I appreciate you sharing that with us here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being vulnerable and bringing your voice to us to allow us to let your story be heard. And maybe you'll come back and do another one with us.
I would love
hell
to.
yeah.
I would love to. Yeah, I feel like there's so much. I don't know if you guys have any more questions about. Feel free to ask. I'm super open. I feel like I went like but
It was perfect.
Yeah.
okay.
As we wrap up today, always remember that within the turbulence of life, there is an extraordinary beauty waiting to be discovered. Embrace it, celebrate it, and share it with the world. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing with your friends and family. Your support helps amplify these voices and ensures that the Turbulent Beauty community continues to grow. Stay connected with us on Instagram at Turbulent Beauty 23 to be a part of the ongoing conversation. We would love to hear your thoughts, stories, and suggestions for future episodes. Thank you for being a part of Turbulent Beauty. See you next time.